Naruto as a series possesses a lot of themes that shake us to our core. Why are we affected by what we see in Naruto? Well, I think it's because what we see in Naruto is what we see in our everyday lives. The concepts of loneliness, of hatred, of constant back and forth, tit for tat, it's no secret that the world today is more divided than it's ever been. And these things cause people to feel scared, alone, sad, and angry. People relate to the Naruto series because the Naruto series, while full of fantastical abilities and wonderful animation, most of the time, also comes across as well written because it deals with real world problems. I'm not talking on a geopolitical level, though that does exist, but more on a personal level. It starts with what's personal. Things that affect one person, that affect a small group, a small town, a city. It deals with issues on a local level that we see every day. I'll bet you that almost every single one of you has found a way to relate to the series in your own life, whether you knew a Naruto, whether you were a Naruto. Maybe you were Sasuke, or Rock Lee. Maybe there were things that people told you that you could never do. Maybe you didn't have many friends. Maybe you didn't have anyone at home waiting for you. And that is the tragedy behind Naruto, behind life as a whole, and that's why Naruto is wonderful. It's a parable to our lives. At the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves the important questions. Which character in this series did we play today, and who do we want to be? Were you living your life as Sasuke, seeking vengeance for something someone did to you? Were you Neji, looking down on others because they didn't have the same talents as you? Or were you Yahiko? Did you sacrifice everything you could for your friends to do a good deed? Were you Kakashi, someone who had so much and lost everything? Or how about Naruto? Were you bullied and left feeling uncared for? Sometimes a simple hello and smile are enough to brighten someone's day. This is a challenge for every Naruto fan, a challenge for every viewer. Be kind, be loving, be the hand that reaches out. I know I've been going on for so long about this, but I find it important that each of us, as Madara says, wake up to reality and see the pain in the world. We don't want to look at it, but we need to. Because when we see the pain in the world, only then can we work to fix it. Naruto has known pain, and he never knew friendship growing up, which is why today I plan to fix things. I'm going to take a simple girl who, despite being considered useless by many, can make a difference if she sets her mind to it. Please join me in another story, in one more of an infinite number of Tsukiyomi worlds as I weave a tale for you. A tale of loneliness and the person who decided to do something about it. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Dear Diary, today was the same as it always is. I woke up alone today. I went to school alone. I sat alone. I ate alone. I spent time alone on the swing set. I came home alone to an empty house where I ate alone. I'm now writing this, and as I write it, I'm alone. It's the same as yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. And it'll be the same tomorrow and the day after. I look back through all the pages and realize that it has always been this way and will always be this way. I have nothing to write about, so I wonder why Mr. Hiruzen gave me this journal at all. I don't think anyone's ever going to read this and care. My life isn't interesting, and nobody's gonna want to read something like this. I certainly don't want to write it. It was supposed to make me happy and help me count my blessings, but I have none, so all it's doing is making me upset. So until things change and my life gets better in any way, shape, or form, I'm not gonna write in this again. I'll see you when things change for the better. That is to say, I'll never see you again. Whatever regards I'm supposed to attach to a crappy entry like this, Naruto. He threw his pen down on the table. He looked down at the journal. It was a nice leather-bound one. Such a nice cover to protect all the treasured memories. If only I had one. He closed it and put it into a drawer on his nightstand and sat down on the bed. His bedroom light was the only thing on in the entire apartment, and that darkness echoed into his bedroom like a fog of tentacles. He closed his door to ward off the creepy feelings that he got that perhaps he wasn't as alone as he thought. Turning to the window, he looked outside at the moon sitting across the black canvas that they called the sky. Speckled through the darkness of the universe were tiny little lights called stars. Stars were generally used as an analogy of how we had to look for the little things in life if we wanted to look past the darkness inside of ourselves, surrounding us, but there were no stars. Not for Naruto. He lay back down in bed and stared at the ceiling. He wondered what it was that he had done to deserve this. Why did God hate him so badly that he put him in a place like this? Why did people hate him so much? Had he somehow offended them? Was this perhaps some penance for a sin committed by his father? He fought it hard, but he couldn't help it. A tear rolled down his cheek. Today was just a bad day, he told himself. You're not really that depressed, you're just in a bad mood, he thought. But then again, was it normal to be in a bad mood all the time? He had thought that maybe if he were a shinobi, the world might treat him differently. Perhaps they might treat him with respect, but that was if he could become one at all. He had failed so many times, and no doubt would he fail again. Naruto was a dud. He had rolled the cosmic dice and had basically ended up with low-level stats and a useless starting class. And following the RPG line of thinking, he was now currently unable to gain EXP to increase his stats and upgrade class because he was attempting to play single player in an MMORPG. He shook his head. My luck's gotta turn around at some point. He wiped his eye. Tomorrow will be better, he said with a smile. No, it wasn't. It was raining. As if somehow he wasn't tortured enough, it was now raining. And as he attempted to open his umbrella, the whole thing malfunctioned and tore a hole through the protective fabric. He trashed it. Useless umbrella. Worst $3 I ever spent. He walked through the pelting rain, the cold wind blowing, causing him to shiver. He walked to school the same way as always. He passed through the streets, the mud caking up on his shoes. He looked down and realized just how much he hated having to wear open-toed boots on days like this. It was going to be such a pain to clean when he got home. He eventually made it to school and entered. Class had yet to start. He made his way up to the seat where he always sat and got off his feet. The other kids were rowdy today, playing rough. Naruto just sorta ignored it. He would be hit by a spitball every so often, but he barely paid it any mind. Today looked like it might be a better day, so long as he was left alone. And to his relief, the school bully didn't seem to come to his desk today. No stolen lunch money this time, it seemed. He sat there silently as Irika walked into the room. Roll call began as the students took their seats. Naruto couldn't help but look out the window. When his name was called, he responded silently with a raised hand, his gaze never turning from the deluge outside. It gave everything a slight black and white tint. As class continued, he couldn't help but think about things. About the parents that came to pick up their kids from school, the little posses of children that would run off to the center of the village for lunch or to play games. Naruto had never had that. His days were spent here and at home, very few places between. It was then that he heard a sound. Naruto! He looked back to see Irika standing there tapping his foot. Huh? The class giggled. Not paying attention again, Naruto? Naruto looked around. I was paying attention. Irika nodded. Uh-huh. Well then why don't you come down here and solve this equation for the class? Irika displayed a math equation on the blackboard. It was asking what the square root of 85 was. Naruto reluctantly stood and began walking down there. He was never that good at math and he knew he was just going to make a fool of himself. Technically, he was wrong though. He would not make a fool of himself. Butch, the class bully, would do that for him. As Naruto stepped down the stairs, Butch stuck his foot out, hooking Naruto's right ankle, causing Naruto to stumble and fall face first into the corner of a desk before finishing rolling down the stairs. Irika saw this and stuck out his hand, coming a little closer. Naruto, are you alright? He asked, attempting to help the boy stand. Naruto's nose was pouring blood. He looked at the crimson liquid on his hand as the class murmured. They were split between laughing and groaning in disgust. All except Sakura, who neither laughed nor groaned. Instead, she watched with quiet concern. Naruto looked at the blood on his hand, smelling the distinct scent of iron. As he heard the people laughing at him, the embarrassment he felt welled up within and broke free in a steady stream of tears. Look, he's crying, someone in the class shouted. Irika looked up as to find who said that, but then turned his attention back to Naruto. I think you should go see the nurse, Naruto. You're excused. He led Naruto to the door and watched him make his way to the nurse's office. He would be checked out and properly bandaged. As it turned out, he had broken his nose pretty badly when he smashed it against the corner of that desk, but of course, Naruto could tell that the moment he hit his face. If anything, he believed he might also have had a couple hairline fractures in his face in general, but it was what it was, and the nurse helped get his nose properly set and stabilized. Naruto would just wait in the office for a while, not sure that he wanted to go back to class at all. The nurse let him stay until the end of that class, but afterward, she pushed him back out into the halls. It was time for the next class, and Naruto was nervous about going. That was when he noticed the bully coming his way. Please, no, Naruto thought as he saw him coming. The bully stepped up in front of him and started speaking. I just wanted to talk about earlier and what happened. Naruto was cautious, but a part of him hoped that maybe Butch was going to apologize. The boy looked down and away. He then looked back at Naruto. I came to realize that I didn't charge you your geek tax today. Naruto was confused. The bully put his hand out. Fork over the lunch money, twerp. Naruto's shoulders dropped. Come on, Butch, can't you cut me a little slack today? Butch looked around. You know, I'd love to. I really would. But then if I did, I'd have to cut everyone slack, and that wouldn't set a very good precedent. So cash me, or I'm gonna have to break your nose a second time. Naruto just wasn't in the mood for this. He pulled the lunch money out with a sigh and handed it over. The bully counted it. You're short, he said. Naruto looked up at him. What? But that's all $5. The bully laughed. No, I don't mean your lunch money. I mean your stature. Maybe you should bring $10 tomorrow so you actually get to eat. Then maybe you wouldn't be a stunted little freak all your life. The bully left. Naruto proceeded to his next class where nobody really talked to him. The teacher saw he had a hard day, so they didn't call on him again, likely as a personal favor to Irika. Naruto wasn't talked to at all. He was talked about a lot, but talked to? Not at all. Lunch rolled around and Naruto found himself sitting in a corner all by himself. He didn't have anything to eat and his stomach was rumbling, but it wasn't like food was free. Maybe in some other villages, but here in Konoha you had to pay to eat during lunch. Either that or bring your own meal. And on days that he brought his own, Butch would just take that instead as collateral for not bringing $5. It was the same now as it was before and always would be, so he sat there in agonizing hunger, listening to the conversations being held about him, watching the others eat while he had nothing. He decided to at least try and get some of his homework knocked out for the day so that when he got home he'd have more free time. The issue was, he sucked and there was nobody around to tutor him. He couldn't go to his parents for help, couldn't go to other students, and there were no real trusted adults who would listen to him, so he was left trying to figure it out himself. No matter how hard he worked, even if he stayed up all night studying, he still could barely pass any classes, and that left him looking like an idiot to everyone. But eventually lunch came to an end and Naruto started packing things back into his backpack. As he did so, another of the class bullies walked past, knocking everything Naruto hadn't already packed up onto the floor where it was then trampled upon by students leaving the cafeteria. He could only watch in stunned silence as his hard work was wasted. Naruto was just shocked by it. He could hardly process it. Part of him wanted to scream in rage, and another wanted to cry, but the final part of him just told him to let it go. To always let it go. Don't draw attention to yourself, just let it go. Naruto picked up the dirty, muddied paper and could see that it was still mostly legible, so he loaded it all up into his backpack and made his way out. He attended a few more classes, and then came the end of the day. He was then allowed to leave. He stepped outside to see that it was still raining. He trudged home through the mud. He looked into the various stores to see the owners looking back at him. Some would shoo him off, others would close their doors as a sign that he wasn't welcome, and a few would just do nothing, but their gazes told him everything he needed to know. He made his way home and tried his best to wipe his shoes. He checked his pockets for his key and couldn't find it. He must have lost it when he fell down the stairs. He sighed again and then checked under the mat for a spare. He would open the door and step inside, making his way to the bathroom where he would cast his shoes off and attempt to clean off the dark, itchy mud. It took him about 5 minutes to get completely rid of the dark brown hue. Drying his feet, he would make himself a bowl of ramen and eat it. There was no sound in the apartment other than the sound of pelting rain falling on the window. The inside of his home was colored a shade of blue from the rain outside. Finishing his meal, he prepared for a shower. After taking one, he walked to his bedroom. Today was another day down. He walked to the calendar and put a large X through the date, October 10th. He put the marker down and just looked at the calendar. His lip quivered a little as he bit it. He walked back to bed and pulled out the journal. He flipped through it, looking at all the entries he made about being bullied, tortured by classmates, and neglected by everyone in the village. On the page after the last, it was blank. He took out a pen and wrote down, "Happy birthday." He then closed the book and curled up under his sheets for the night. He knew he should probably do his homework, but who gave a shit anymore? The next day, Sakura sat in Irika's class. Roll call was largely the same, but when Naruto's name was called, there was no answer. It was called a second time. Still no answer. Irika peeked up to see that Naruto was not there. He looked around. Has anyone seen Naruto today? There was a murmur as the children shook their heads. Irika clicked his tongue with a hiss and a sigh. Absent. The day went on as normal, and Sakura could only wonder why Naruto wasn't there. Perhaps he wasn't there for a reason. It's not like anyone could call in for him if he caught a cold from yesterday. It was clear though that Irika was slightly worried. His mood had darkened noticeably for the rest of the day. This wasn't the first time Naruto had been absent, and every other time this had happened, Irika's reaction was the same. As the day came to an end, Irika was gathering papers. Sakura walked up to him. He looked back. "Oh, hello Sakura. What can I do for you?" She stood there. "I was just wondering if you were gonna send Naruto his homework." Irika nodded. "Indeed, I was gonna drop it off at his home." Sakura stood there silently for a moment. "I can take it if you want." Irika looked back at her. "You'll take it?" he asked. He shrugged as if to say it was alright with him. "Do you even know where he lives though?" he asked. Sakura thought about it. Truthfully, she didn't. She shook her head. Irika would write the address down on a slip of paper and give it to her. "I am entrusting this task to you. Have a good evening, Miss Haruno." Sakura would take the papers and make her way out. She stood in the sunlight. The rain had finally stopped and everything was drying off. The plants were still covered in little droplets of water. So far, it had been a mild fall, but it was said that temperatures would fall drastically tonight, causing a freeze. And with all of this water on the ground, surely ice would form and likely kill off most of the vegetation for the year. But until then, Sakura was just happy to feel the sunshine on her skin. She raced happily through the streets. As she did so, store owners and shopkeepers would all wave to her. "Good afternoon, Sakura," they would call out, as she would wave back to them. They were all such kind souls. She looked at the slip of paper and noted the address on it and the location. It was a good thing that she knew her way around, or the back streets that she would have to travel down might see her lost. She ran on until she made it to the location on the sheet of paper. She looked up at the door and knocked on it. There was no answer. Sakura waited patiently. She knocked again. Eventually, the sound of a lock being turned could be heard. The door opened slightly and a single eye could be seen from within. She smiled brightly. With half of Naruto's face visible behind the door frame, he stared at her stoically. "What is it?" he asked. "Irika-sensei's tasked me with bringing you your homework." Naruto looked down and saw the papers in her hands. He looked back up at her. "Thanks." She looked around. "You know, they say it's rude to leave a pretty girl outside." Naruto scoffed. "Too bad there's not a pretty girl here." A vein in Sakura's brow popped, though she maintained her smile. "Funny." She opened her eyes, which had previously been squinted to brighten her toothy grin. "So, I just wanted to, His eye kept fixated on hers. "I just wanted to see if you're alright. Irika-sensei seemed pretty worried about you." "I'm fine," Naruto said simply. Sakura cocked her head to the side. "Are you?" His stare turned into the roll of an eye as the door closed. She was a little confused by this. Did he really just shut the door in my face? She asked herself. She almost turned around to leave when she heard a chain being undone. Suddenly, the door was opened completely as Naruto motioned her in. She stepped inside. Naruto looked down at the floor. "Thanks for wiping your feet," he said sarcastically. Sakura looked down. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll clean it up, I promise." Naruto closed the door and waved it off. "Forget it. Doesn't matter." He walked in and poured himself some tea. "You want a cup?" he asked her. She smiled and responded energetically. "Yes." She sat down by the table. "So, why weren't you at school today? Were you feeling sick?" Naruto was silent as he poured a cup of tea. He sat it down on the table. "Something like that." He sat down by the table and watched her drink. He looked like he had either just woken up or was tired and about to go to sleep. She sat there with an awkward smile on her face. Naruto took a long blink, beginning to speak before he opened his eyes again. "Did you come here for something?" Sakura's eyes lit up with understanding. "Oh, I brought you this." She pulled a small stack of papers clipped together out of her backpack. She held it out to him. Naruto reached over and took the papers. Sakura's eyes widened a little when she noticed a plethora of scars running across Naruto's wrists. His grip on the paper tightened a little as she looked. "Is something the matter?" Naruto asked as he looked at her, dead in the eyes. She looked up at him and realized her death grip on the paper. She smiled again and shook her head. "No, nothing's wrong." She relinquished the papers for him. Naruto looked them over. "Damn it," he said as he looked at them. "What is it?" she asked. Naruto put the papers down on the table. "Irika loaded me down with more freaking math." Naruto stood with his cup of tea and shook his head. "Doesn't freaking matter." Sakura looked at it. "Why not?" she asked. He looked back. "I suck at math and I don't have anyone to tutor me. I'm gonna flunk. Again. Why do I even keep going to school?" Sakura looked at it. "You don't understand this?" "No." She looked the papers over again. "This is easy stuff." Naruto then scoffed. "Maybe for you. You're an egghead." She looked up. "How did you know?" Naruto looked back. "Because there's no other explanation for that massive forehead. Gotta be covering brain or something." She bit her tongue. She then looked down at the work again. She laid the papers out and opened her own backpack and began pulling things out. Naruto looked back. Hey, wait, what do you think you're doing? She looked up. I'm taking out my homework too. What for? Naruto demanded. She looked up at him. Gotta have someone with a brain teach you. If not, then what's my stupid forehead even for? She pulled out her pencils and sat them down. She began to go through her problems. She looked up at Naruto. Sit down and pick up a pencil, Naruto. I'm gonna tutor you. What? She looked up at him. Did I stutter? I'm going to help you pass math class. Now sit down. Naruto reluctantly sat down. Together they worked on his math for quite some time. She taught him some tips and tricks to make the questions easier and better ways to solve them. She even went so far as to write him up a couple of tests just to see if he had actually picked anything up. She had him answer them. When he was done, he passed them over to her. He sat in silence as she checked them over. She would eventually peek over the top. You only missed one. Naruto seemed a little shocked by that. Really? Which one? She pointed to it. You put the decimal on the wrong side of the 2. He looked at it. She then pushed the paper over to him with a big A+ drawn on it and circled. Huh, surprising, he said. She looked down. See, you can figure it out. You just need a little help. You're smarter than you give yourself credit for. Naruto looked the page over. Sakura stood, loaded up her backpack, and made her way to the door, grabbing her coat and slipping into her shoes. All you need to do is remember that little trick I taught you and you'll ace the test, I promise. He looked up to her. You really think so? She nodded. I know so. She opened the door. I left my cell phone number on your fridge. If you have any more questions, feel free to give me a ring. Just don't call me anytime after 11 p.m. unless it's an emergency, okay? He nodded. She stepped out. He then called out to her. Hey, Sakura? She peeked her head back in. Yeah? Naruto let off a slight smile. Thanks. She smiled. Don't mention it. There's plenty more tutoring where that came from. She then left his house. Naruto would begin to prepare for bed. He would sit there in his pajamas and look at the nightstand. He would open the drawer and take out his journal. Dear Diary, something really strange happened today. The next day, Naruto got up and took a shower. He would brush his teeth and get otherwise ready for school. He would then grab something to eat and make his way to the door. He would lock his apartment and this time put the key into a zippered pocket on his pants to ensure it didn't get lost again. As he locked the door, he looked up and sighed. Another day in hell, he whispered to himself. He made his way downstairs and came out the front office where he found Sakura waiting for him. He looked around as he finished zipping up his coat. You waiting for someone? He asked. She nodded with a smile. Yeah, you. Me? He asked, pointing to himself. Sakura nodded. Of course, you. Naruto's face showed how truly new this was to him. He thought it felt strange, but all the same, he was open to it. Together, they walked to school. They talked about their night. Honestly, there wasn't much to note. After their time studying, they both basically only had enough time to clean up, eat, and go to bed. But Sakura did mention that she had a dream where she was riding a giraffe, which she thought was funny. Naruto actually couldn't remember what he dreamed about and assumed it must have not been that important. Sakura rebuked this though, telling Naruto that sometimes the dreams we had could tell us more about ourselves and what we wanted. She said it's wonderful to have and share them with friends. Naruto shrugged. It's not like I can control it. She thought about it. There are techniques that can help. I've heard that you can change when and what you eat to help and have a more strict bedtime and have something lavender scented in your room. I've also heard that roses help you dream as well because they're supposed to help you relax or something. Naruto shrugged. I don't really think that's important. Nonsense, she said. Dreams can help bring the real you into reality. They walked together to the academy where they ended up finding their seats in class. Sakura always had her predetermined spot, as did Naruto. After roll call, they began class. Naruto was still a bit of a daydreamer, but every so often those daydreams would turn in Sakura's direction, which, though he was staring through her, was still aware of her. She noticed at one point in time and smiled, beginning to make funny faces at him, which would cause him to smile and giggle a little too. Iruka would look at Naruto. Do you have something to share, Naruto? Naruto shook his head. Iruka looked over at Sakura, who was trying her hardest to hide her own laughter. He looked back at Naruto. While I have your attention, why don't you come down here and solve this equation for me? Naruto reluctantly stood and began making his way down. Butch saw this and gave a small smile as his foot slowly inched out into the aisle. Suddenly, there was a startling slam as Iruka's hand was pressed against his desk. Butch looked up at Iruka. Iruka looked down at Butch's foot. That's a nasty habit you got there. Would be a shame if you lost it. Butch pulled his foot back in. Yes, Iruka-sensei. Sorry, Iruka-sensei. Naruto made his way to the blackboard. He looked at the problem and then back at Sakura, who gave him a thumbs up. Iruka gave him the chalk. Let's see you answer this one, Naruto. Naruto rolled the chalk in his hand as he looked at the equation. He began going through the steps Sakura had taught him, and after about a minute and a half, he reached his conclusion. Iruka looked at it and gave a slight nod. He then took his thumb and removed the decimal and placed it on the other side of the 9. Very impressive and almost perfect. You just forgot where the decimal went. I can't credit you for answering it correctly because technically you didn't, but it was very close. I'm glad to see you're improving. Go back to your desk now. Naruto turned to leave, but Iruka put a hand on his shoulder to stop him for a moment. Naruto looked back. Iruka offered a smile. I'm glad to have you back today, Naruto. Naruto smiled and made his way up the stairs and back to his seat. He looked to Sakura, who smiled and gave him 2 thumbs up. Naruto blushed a little and continued the class, this time paying a bit more attention. At lunch, Naruto would, as per usual, have his lunch money taken by Butch. What was there to expect? This was simply the way things were by this point. And so he sat down alone at his table and took out his homework to try and get some of it down. There was a creak. He looked up to see Sakura sitting down across from him. What, are you not gonna eat? He shrugged. Butch took my cash. Nothing left to use as payment. Sakura laughed a little. Then just share with me. She pulled out half her sandwich and laid it on a napkin with half her apple slices and half of her chips before pushing it over toward him. And so they shared a meal, and she told some of the stories from her life, and even made Naruto laugh a few times. After their lunch, she helped him with his homework and even managed to get it all knocked out before lunch came to an end. After class, she walked him home. They didn't need to study today as it was about to be the weekend, but all the same, she was sure to keep him company on his way back. Getting home, he would open the door and invite her in. She would decline, saying she needed to get home or her parents might wonder where she was. Naruto understood and bid her a good weekend. She then surprised him when she asked if he wanted to do something that weekend. This startled him. He nodded. Sure. What do you want to do? He asked. She thought for a moment. How about we just go out in the town? Go out to eat, go to the playground, anything we feel like doing. Naruto smiled. Sure, that sounds fun. She smiled back. Then it's a date. I'll be back at around 11 tomorrow. Sound good? He nodded. The two then parted ways. Sakura skipped a little on her way out. Honestly, this felt good. At first, she just sort of felt bad for Naruto, but now she was genuinely enjoying spending time with him. On her way home, she stopped by a shop, Yamanaka Flowers. She stepped in. There, she's greeted by Inoichi, the shop's current owner, and also by Ino herself, who's taking some time to help her father. Hey, Sakura, what's up? Ino shouts as she walks over. Sakura smiles. I just thought I'd stop in. I was considering buying a few flowers. Hope that's okay. Ino's eyes widened. For what occasion? Is there someone special? Sakura laughed a little. No, not exactly. These are just to help a friend sleep better at night. I was thinking some potpourri perhaps, maybe a little lavender, a few roses. Ino snapped her fingers. Don't you worry, I can hook you up. All the while, Inoichi couldn't help but smile to see the sight. Ino helped Sakura pick out some of the better flowers and would help bring her up. After paying, Sakura would wave and leave, making her way back down to Naruto's apartment. She would ring his doorbell and just leave them there. Naruto would open the door and see the basket full of flowers. He would pick it up and read the note attached. Sweet dreams, Sakura. Naruto was astounded by this. He took the flowers out. He would place the lavender by his bed and put the potpourri on his dresser, and he'd find a nice vase of water to put the roses in, setting them on the desk across from his bed. Naruto sat there in his room and looked around. He read the note that Sakura had left and smiled, feeling a tear start to form in his eye. He would open up the drawer and pull out the journal and would open it up and place the note inside it. He would then lay back and attempt to go to sleep, and for the first time in a long time, Naruto had a dream. A good one. And I think I'm gonna call that a part. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment and tell me your favorite bit. I always like to make videos that are dialogue heavy. Sometimes I find it more interesting to see the characters grow through self-exploration as opposed to combat. I can't be the only one. But I also wanted to let you know that this particular video is not just a story I wrote in some fantasy setting. To someone out there, this video is their reality. Everyone needs at least one friend, and if they don't have one, what's to stop you from being it? You all make me so proud, because I know so many of you are Sakuras to someone else's Naruto, so keep up the good work, and until then, peace out.
Did you enjoy our video? Well then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.